Hello and welcome. My name is Angie Holden and I'm the blogger behind The Country Chic Cottage. So this is your DTF Beginner's Guide. DTF is direct to film printing, and I actually have another video that explains exactly what DTF is along with safety concerns. And I do encourage you to watch that video first, and I'll link to that in the description below this video. Second, I have a video all about DTF printer setup and maintenance. So if you're interested in purchasing an actual DTF printer, I would encourage you to watch that video first, and I will link to that in the description below this video as well. In this video, we're going to cover the DTF printing process, so how you print, add powder, cure the powder, and press that design to a shirt. Now, if you want to skip the printing process, if that seems too daunting for you or too much, you can go directly to the pressing portion of this video and order DTF prints from a place like Heat Transfer Warehouse. So in the description below this video, I will have links to where you can purchase a DTF printer, as well as just DTF prints if you think the printing process itself is too much for you. I also have a couple of free designs, the Mama design that I have here on the shirt that I'm wearing, as well as one that says Homebody, and you can see it on this shirt, and I'll show you a cool technique with it as well. So I'll have both of those designs for free, and I will link to that in the description below this video. So now let's get started with your DTF printing beginner's guide. So first, let's go through the printing process of this video. If you haven't set up your DTF printer or haven't fed the media in, you need to see my setup video on how to do that. So you should have your DTF printer set up, the media fed in, and it ready to print. So all of your daily maintenance done, and it's ready to print. That nozzle check page is perfect, or as close to perfect as you can get it. So now that you are ready to print, what does that printing process look like? The very first thing you're going to need to do is have a RIP software. RIP software is going to translate your image into an image that has white ink, because yes, your DTF printer has white ink. So you need that software to translate the image and make the best possible use of it to work with white ink, so the resulting print can go on dark colored garments. So the printer I'm using, the RIP software, did come with it. And all I do is open up that RIP software and upload my design. So I'm just uploading the design to the software. You can resize it, you can move it around on the sheet itself, and you can see the sheet right in the software. For me, I'm using a printer that prints about a maximum of 8 inches wide, but it will print however long I would like. So I could play around with longer designs as long as they're not over my maximum print width. Then once I get the design looking just like I want it, then it is time to actually print from the software. Now the software itself is PC only, and you do need to connect it directly to the printer I'm using, so it does not have Wi-Fi or Bluetooth capability. So I'm going to go ahead and send the design to the printer itself, and the printer will begin the printing process. The first thing you'll notice is that the printer prints a line both before and after your design. This line should print at like the maximum width of your design. I have noticed that it kind of picks up the background on some of my designs and will print all the way across, even though technically the design isn't all the way across. So I do want to say here that a DTF printer prints very, very slowly. It is a slow process, and the ink is wet. So you don't want to mess with the prints at all as they are printing. And you will note when you print, it will be mirrored. The print will probably also look white as it comes off of the DTF printer. Basically, there is an order of the colors it prints, and the RIP software does all that for you. However, it will kind of have a layer of white over some or all of the colors in order to get the best print possible on those dark colors. So when it comes out looking white, it's okay. When you turn it over, it will look like the design that you uploaded to the software. Once it has completely printed, again, it'll print that line. The printer itself will stop. You'll need to press the exit button to sort of feed that media through to get it to a point where you can cut it off. You can cut the print off with scissors or even a razor blade. There's a slot there that you could use for a razor blade. However, you want to be careful during this process as that ink is wet and will smudge. Then you want to move that print to your powdering area. The first thing I want to say is that your powdering area should not be close to your printing area. They should be separated. So don't powder near your printer. You should powder as soon as possible once printed, no more than 2 hours after printing. Now you will see me using the white powder in this video. There is a white powder and a black powder, and I do have a short video describing the differences between those two and why you might want to use that black powder. And I will link to that short video in the description below this video. So choose your powder, either white or black. And here I'm doing a manual powdering process. There is a powder shaker that you can purchase with your printer. However, it is not necessary. You can definitely manually powder. However, when dealing with the powder, regardless if I'm doing a manual or the shaker, I do wear protective equipment. So I wear glasses, a mask, an apron, as well as gloves. Here I'm just powdering in a plastic container. You do want to keep your powder away from moisture, so put it away at the end of the day, put some desiccant packs in it and seal it up, and don't leave it out during the day if you're not using it. Add your print to your tub and then cover that with the powder. You do want to move this back and forth and ensure that you get a coating of powder over all of the wet ink. There should be no areas left that do not have powder on them. And then one of the most important things I found is this next process, which is basically flicking the print. So on the opposite side, the side away from your ink, you just want to flick your finger several times. And I would flick this many times. You are trying to remove as much of the excess powder as you can. While you want a really good coating of powder across that entire inked surface, you don't want too much powder in any of the areas. So this process gets rid of all that excess powder. And I will note here that the ink is still wet during this process. It's covered with powder, but it is still wet. It will still smudge. Then you can move that print over to your curing area. Now what I'm using is a curing oven with an air purifier attached. One of the safety concerns with DTF printing is the fumes that happen when you cure the powder. So if you're using a hack with like hovering your heat press over your DTF print to cure your powder, I would use caution there, as you have no control over the fumes that come out around the heat press. With the oven, you have control over those fumes. When you're using the oven, you do want to turn it on at least 10 minutes before you start the curing process. The oven I'm using here has two on and off switches. One is for the heating element itself, and the other one is for the air purifier. If you wait until after the oven heats up to turn your air purifier on, the oven will heat up faster. So heat the oven up first. And you might need to play with your temperature on this, but it is a 248°F minimum to cure your powder. The humidity, temperature, even your elevation can affect the time and temperature here. And I will say that 50% humidity is probably too low, so you want to watch for that. So once your oven is heated up, you will turn the air purifier on, open the oven lid, place the film inside, ink side up, and close it. Here I'm heating for about 60 seconds, opening the lid of the oven, checking the look of the print. A lot of times I had to rotate it and heat it again. It was like there wasn't always a consistent heat across the entire thing, and some areas would be fully cured and others would not. When checking the back for a fully cured print, you don't want the surface to be grainy at all, so it should not look like powder anymore. The powder should melt and it should look like kind of an orange peel finish that should be very shiny. And I do feel like there's a learning curve to this, and I will discuss some of the ways to tell if you have issues further on in this video. I found it easier to use gloves during this process as the platen is hot. Once the film is cured and you are ready to press, you do want to let it rest for at least 10 seconds before pressing. You also want to be sure to cut off that bottom and top line at some point during this process. It's often easier to cut it off after the curing process, just so you don't run the risk of smearing your ink. Now I did say you want to wait at least 10 seconds before pressing, but these can actually be stored up to 6 months in a dry location. Put a desiccant pack or paper towel with the prints to absorb the moisture. Now you have DTF prints. Thankfully, the pressing process is extremely easy and one of my favorite parts of this entire thing. So let's head to the heat press and see more about pressing these. Now I did try several different heat presses, including that Cricut Easy Press, so let's take a look at those results. First of all, you want to heat your heat press for at least 10 minutes. It's 320°F for 15 seconds at medium pressure. That's the average temperature. The lowest you want to go is 300°F. You want to take your garment, pre-press for about 5 seconds, then add your DTF print in location. Then press down, 320°F, 15 seconds, medium pressure. Once that's done, lift it up. It's actually a warm or cool peel. You can rub the surface like with the rest of the garment or with another garment to sort of cool it off faster, and then start to peel. If you have any peeling, you can increase the heat and you can just press again. Now at the end of that, you will have kind of a shiny finish. It won't be in your garment very much. Here's a hack to make it go into your garment even more and give you a very professional looking matte finish. You basically want to put cotton or a silicone sheet on top and press for 5 more seconds at that 320°F. Using this shirt is a great option here. So just sort of flip the tail of the shirt over the DTF print and press for about 5 seconds more. So that part was easy, right? So I did press several other shirts. So you saw me use the Cricut Auto Press. I also used my Easy Press for a shirt, and yes, it did in fact work. So I was super impressed with the wide variety of heat presses that I was able to use with this and get excellent results. So now let's talk about if you don't get excellent results. So what are some of the common issues and what could be the cause of those? If you have excess powder, it could cause you to have a thick hand feel, so it feels heavier on your shirt. Excess powder can also cause a white haze around your image, especially on a darker shirt. If it does not transfer, you don't have any powder, or if you have gaps in your transfer, you have uneven powder. You can also get bad powder. So I mentioned that the powder should be in an airtight bag with desiccant. You should also keep the powder away from sunlight or heat, and you should actually use your powder within 6 months. If you did not get the transfer hot enough, it can cause gaps in the transfer or for it to shrink or peel after you wash it. If you get it too hot, it can cause the ink to stick to the film or the ink to boil out. Now that curing process is very important. If the powder is not cured, it can cause your print to peel, and it can also cause it not to wash well, so the color layer will just kind of wash off. If your powder is cured at too high of a temperature, it can cause you to not be able to peel the film away once you press, and it can also lead to ink boiling. And then finally, during that pressing process, I said it's a warm or cool peel. If you peel too fast, it can cause some of the small letters and things like that to peel up or tear. So now let's look at a few results. So first I want to show you the results from a wash test. And I think you're going to be impressed with this one. And here is that shirt after pressing. So you can see that the DTF itself on fabric looks really, really good. Now what I did is I took another shirt like this one and added this same design, and I did a laundry test with that version. So this one at the top is the original, and the second one has been through the laundry 10 times. Now I do wash all my clothes on cold water. However, the DTF itself, you can actually put it in the dryer. I hung this one to dry sometimes, I put it in the dryer sometimes, but over the course of the 10 laundry cycles, you can see there's not a ton of difference. You might see a little bit of fading. I feel like there's a little fading on the design. However, the design itself has not picked up at all, and it still feels really, really great on the shirt itself. So I feel like as far as wearing, it is wearing very well in the laundry. So I'm very impressed with the way it wears. And now you've seen me wash a shirt like this. Let's take a look at a shirt that stretches so you can see some of the benefits of DTF. So I specifically chose this fabric because the shirt itself stretches. So I'm just gonna pick up sort of this top layer of fabric, and you can see that the stretch is not bad on this product. It does lay on top of the shirt, so it's not perfect, but it does stretch sort of with the fabric. And there's, I would say, minimal puckering when you stretch it. So I am really impressed with the stretchability of this. And if I just pick this area right here, you can see that even within just the material itself, it has some stretch and some give to it. So it's another big benefit to DTF. And finally, I wanted to show you a hack, and I'm going to use a black garment as an example for this hack. However, the hack can be used for other colors as well. Basically, it's called a knockout technique. So in this case, my shirt is black and part of my design is black. There really is no reason for me to print that black area. So I have a couple of choices. I could print the design as is and print all of the area, including the black. Or I can use the RIP software to actually knock out the black or remove the black from the design. The RIP software will do that for me. It removes all the black from the design and makes holes in those areas. So then I have a print that has no black and it basically has holes in those areas. When I press both of those, I can press the version that has the black to a black shirt, and then I can press the version that has no black or the black removed to a black shirt. They sort of look the same, but let's take a look at the results on the garment, and I think you'll agree that knocking out might be the solution. So here's this first shirt with a completely printed design. So the black inside of here is printed and it covers the entire shirt. So this is stiffer than the second version I'm going to show you. And here's that second version, and this version, the black is from the t-shirt itself, so it's been knocked out of the design. This means that the feel itself is way softer because just the t-shirt is showing through all these black areas. So if you have a chance to do this, if the color of your shirt can serve as a portion of your design, I would definitely consider that knockout technique. So now all that's left for you to do is to give DTF prints a try. Whether you have a printer and do the printing part of this process, or you say that printer is way too much for me and way too needy with all of that maintenance that I saw in your last video, Angie, then you can purchase DTF prints from Heat Transfer Warehouse and give them a try for yourself. Either way, I think you're going to love them, especially on dark colors, and they go on dark colors, so any color fabric, any fabric, so cotton, 100% cotton, polyester, 100% polyester, any blend of cotton and poly together. Seriously, you can put this on any garment that will withstand the temperature, so that 320 degrees Fahrenheit pressing temperature there at the end. If your garment will withstand the temperature, DTF will probably work on it. Now for me, I'm going to go through the kind of the pros and cons of DTF itself. So pros. It has an amazing feel on the shirt. It feels very thin. It does lay on top of the shirt, but it is very thin and has a great feel. You saw that it has some stretch to it as well, so it will definitely stretch with your garment. The wear is very, very nice, so it wears evenly, doesn't fade out after just a few washes. It is still adhered to that shirt where I did my laundry test, so overall I'm very impressed with the wearability on DTF garments. You also saw that I used a variety of heat presses to press it, so yes, even if you just have a Cricut Easy Press, you can press DTF prints. Now what are the cons of DTF printing? Basically, the printer itself is a very needy printer. So the setup, the maintenance, the things you have to do daily to this printer are cumbersome, as well as the whole printing process itself. It is quite a bit of work. So the printing is slow. Then you have to powder it, and that is very messy. Then you have to cure it, which can be hazardous to your health if you don't follow the recommended procedures. So I would use caution, especially if you're going to do DTF printing in your home, because that powder will get everywhere. And you are dealing with something that is a very small plastic adhesive type of material that can get in your lungs, in the air in your home. I would just use a ton of caution if you plan on doing the printing process at home. Now, once it is on the print, the powder has been applied, it's been cured. So if you were thinking about ordering DTF prints, the process is so easy that there's no reason not to do it. So if you can afford to just purchase the DTF prints, then I would highly recommend that. And even if you are just thinking about getting into DTF printing, say like you just want to, like I just want to give it a try. I don't know if I want a printer yet or not. I would order the DTF prints first so you can get a good idea of how they feel on the shirt, how they work, and then kind of backtrack and see if a DTF printer itself might be right for you. DTF printers are also very expensive, which is another con for getting into the printing process itself. So they are out of the budget for a lot of home crafters and might even be out of the budget of several businesses. I do think you could probably justify it for a business if you make enough shirts, or even if you start a business selling DTF prints, it might just be a business that you want to get into. However, if that portion of it is not for you, just ordering the DTF prints themselves, I think you will be extremely impressed with the results that you get after pressing those. And then my final con for DTF printing is that basically it can only be used on fabrics. I am going to do a future video testing it on some other surfaces just to see if I can get it to work. However, I don't hold out a lot of hope for it being a very permanent solution for other surfaces. It is basically intended for fabric only. I do want to leave you with the thought that DTF printing is probably at its infancy right now. So it's basically like a toddler. It is very new in the industry, and I am sure over the next few years there will be several innovations, and at some point it might be a process that I would want in my own home. For now, however, the footage you see of the printing process itself, the printing, the powdering, the curing process was all done at Heat Transfer Warehouse. So Corey George with Hey Let's Make Stuff and I went there and learned all about the DTF printing process. We're able to do some hands-on projects and film the entire process and learn a little bit more about it. That trip was basically for me to decide if I wanted to have a DTF printer in my home, and I did decide that for me personally, I did not. I would not use it enough. This is going to be a printer that you are going to have to use regularly very regularly. And every time you use it, you have to do a daily maintenance procedure when you start the printer up, as well as when you shut it down. So even if you started it to print one print, you would have to do that maintenance procedure. It was just too much for me to tackle in my home studio. However, some of you might be interested in doing this as a business, and it may be something that you're saying, yes, I definitely do want to do that in my studio or at my shop. Then by all means, I hope these videos helped you. But for me personally, I will be buying all the DTF prints from Heat Transfer Warehouse, having them sent to me just like this, ready to press, because I love the pressing process of DTF prints, and I absolutely love the results, the final results on the garment. So stay tuned, I do have even more in this series, and I will drop an interest list in the description below this video. So if you're like, I just really want to learn more about DTF printing, Angie, I will have an interest list. Be sure to sign up for it below. And then if you have any questions that I could cover in a further video on DTF printing, ask those in the comment section below. If you liked this video, if it helped you, give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, head on over to our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. We have videos just like this one every single week, and trust me, you don't want to miss any of those. So thank you all so much for joining me, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.